Welcome to the program, Comrades and Friends, Global Weekly News, Series number 187. First item, Greenland and the chessboard of US imperialism. Greenland has been inhabited for 4,000 years, 4,500 years, and its people are linked to the Inuit communities across the Arctic. It is the world's largest island, Greenland, with an area larger than France, Germany, Spain, Great Britain, Italy, Greece, Switzerland, and Belgium combined. It became a Danish colony with the establishment of the state-owned Royal Greenland Trading Company in 1874. The company functioned as the de facto colonial administration until the early 1900s, when trade and administration were separated. During this period, Danish companies extracted various minerals including cryolite, iron, zinc, lead and silver. The colonial era formally ended in 1853, but political equality with Denmark did not follow. Following a referendum, so-called Home Rule was introduced in 1879, which was replaced in June 2009 by the current status of self-government. Under self-government, Greenlanders hold the rights to the island's subsoil and the minerals found there. However, foreign and security policies remain decided in Denmark, which is why Greenland is considered as NATO territory. Greenland is not a member of the European Union. In a 1982 referendum, 53% of the Greenland people voted to leave the European Union. Today, Greenland is classified as one of the European Union's overseas countries and territories. In 1951, a secret agreement between the US government and Denmark's envoy to the United States granted US military involvement in Greenland. The agreement was highly controversial. It remains in force today and has been repeatedly confirmed. In practice, it grants unlimited US military rights over Greenland. Thus, for decades, the US has maintained several military facilities in Greenland. Inuit families were evicted forcefully in 1853. An American B-52 plane crashed in Greenland carrying 4 atomic bombs in 1968. The Danish government repeatedly states that Greenland belongs to the Greenlanders and is not for sale. But in reality, Denmark has been selling off Greenland to the United States for decades. Then why does the Trump administration seek an annexation of Greenland? The answer lies in a new US security strategy and the demand for unquestioned and unlimited control over oil, control over minerals, and military dominance. Greenland has significant deposits of rare earths, copper, nickel, zinc, gold, diamonds, iron ore, titanium, tungsten, and uranium. Trump wants US companies, many of which have invested heavily in his re-election, to have unfettered access to Greenland's mineral deposit resources. A fully controlled, militarized, and rearmed Greenland is also intended to serve as an advanced base against both Russia and China. It is so important to hold on the principle of the rights of nations to self-determination. Second item, comrades. Iran rejects Washington's false accusations. On 17th January, the government of Iran claimed that the US is making false accusations against Iran in its latest attempt to fuel tensions in the region. It dismissed the US allegations of attacks on American bases in the region, warning that any move to militarily target Iran would be retaliated. The US Department of State reiterated threats of striking Iran, saying that all options remained on the table, and warning Iran not to play games with the President Trump. Trump has also repeatedly threatened the Iranian government not to use force against protesters in Iran. Trump went so far as to accuse Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei of misrule and excessive use of violence against the protesters to stay in power. He also repeated his call for change in the country's leadership. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian, in a post on X, claimed that Iranians are facing economic hardship due to the result of sanctions imposed by the US and its allies. He also warned the US and Trump against attempting to target the Iranian Supreme Leader, claiming any attack on Khamenei, the Supreme Leader, would be treated as an attack on the whole country. As per the agreement reached with the Iraqi government in 2024, US troops pulled out of the airbase last week, handing over control to Iraqi troops. During a joint press conference with the Iraqi counterpart, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi expressed satisfaction at the withdrawal of US forces from Iraq's Ain al-Assad airbase after years of presence. He called it good for regional peace and stability. So from Iraq's airbase, American troops have withdrawn. Third item, comrades. Europe's militarization threatened workers' welfare. The militarization of Europe is advancing rapidly, with everything from public budgets to media narratives increasingly shaped by a war-driven logic. This was one of the key warnings raised by trade unionists, left politicians, and peace activists during a discussion organized by the International Peace Bureau and the No to War and No to NATO network. At the level of the European Union, Belgium MP, Parliament member Mark Botanga, warned that existing rules and safeguards are being pushed aside to accelerate the new military industrial strategy. At the level of the European Union, Belgian Parliament member Mark Botanga warned that existing rules and safeguards are being pushed aside to accelerate the new military industrial strategy. People's minds are also being militarized. She emphasized the German government's push to meet NATO's 5% spending target by 2029 and to make Germany war ready by the same time. Militarist thinking is being normalized across society, including in everyday public spaces such as swimming pools and schools. In some German regions, teachers are already being pushed to invite soldiers into classrooms. Social and welfare systems are already facing the impact of the cuts made to accommodate rising defense expenditure. Resistance to war is also gaining momentum. Students, trade unions, and other groups are increasingly looking at what a fully militarized Europe would mean for their lives and livelihoods, and are beginning to organize in response. In Germany, tens of thousands of students are preparing new strikes against the possibility of compulsory military service. Fourth item, comrades, now we go to Africa. United States re-engages in dam dispute in Ethiopia. Since the launch of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam last year, a $500 crore ultra mega project and Africa's largest hydroelectric development, tensions between Ethiopia, Egypt and Sudan have steadily escalated. The dispute has drawn renewed attention from the United States, with President Trump indicating he will intervene. Egypt has welcomed potential U.S. involvement. The Renaissance Dam, has long been a source of contention. Egypt and Sudan argue that the dam violates principles of international water law, particularly the obligation not to cause significant harm to downstream states. Ethiopia, however, maintains that the project is a sovereign development initiative that will not harm downstream countries. In a letter dated 16th January 2026, sent to Egyptian President, Trump wrote, "I am ready to restart U.S. mediation between Egypt and Ethiopia to responsibly resolve the question of the Nile water sharing once and for all. My team and I understand the deep significance of the Nile River to Egypt and its people, and I want to help you achieve an outcome that assures the water needs of Egypt, Sudan and Ethiopia long into the future. The U.S. affirms that no state in this region should unilaterally control the precious resources of the Nile and disadvantage its neighbors in the process." Egyptian President publicly welcomed Trump's letter. Fifth item, comrades. Cuba honors 32 military personnel killed in Venezuela. Nearly 500,000, 5 lakh Cubans marched through the streets of Havana to honor the 32 Cubans who were killed in combat during the U.S. military incursion into Venezuela on 3rd January 2026. The Cuban military personnel who were in Venezuela were carrying out collaborative activities previously agreed upon with the Caracas government. 32 Cubans killed were personally protecting Nicolas Maduro, President of Venezuela. Several days of national mourning were declared on the Caribbean island Cuba, in addition to official tours in which the fallen were carried through the streets of Cuba before being laid to rest with all the country's military tributes. The large demonstration was led by Cuba's highest authorities, including members of the government, representatives of the Communist Party of Cuba, senior officers of the Revolutionary Armed Forces, and various social and political organizations that accompanied the victims' families in their grief. Patriotic slogans marked the voice of the crowd, "Down with imperialism." Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel told the rally, "The current U.S. administration has opened the door to an era of barbarism, dispossession and neo-fascism, regardless of what they mean in terms of more war, more destruction and more death. They would have to kidnap millions or wipe us off the map, and even then they would be haunted forever by the ghost of the small archipelago that they had to pulverize because they could not subdue it. No, imperialists, we are absolutely not afraid of you, and we do not like, as Fidel said, being threatened. You will not intimidate us." Sixth item, comrades. China delivers 30,000 tons of rice to Cuba. China has delivered 30,000 tons of rice to Cuba, stepping up in defiance of the decades-long U.S. blockade that has heavily restricted the Caribbean islands' trade and international relations. Washington continues to isolate the tiny country, the socialist projects of Cuba, and China are standing together in solidarity. Chinese spokesman said, "We firmly believe that with our joint efforts, no blockade can extinguish the light of hope." Yes, comrades. Seventh item. Demonstrations in United States against government's policies. Tens of thousands across the United States took to the streets on 20th January to protest the Donald Trump administration 1 year since he took office for a second term. Thousands of high schoolers across the US walked out of class as part of the day of protest and demanded an end to Trump's policies targeting immigrant communities and the end of the operations of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. Lastly, comrades, the left parties in India insist Modi government not to join Board of Peace. Left parties in India, Communist Party of India, Marxist, Communist Party of India, Communist Party of India, Marxist-Leninist Liberation, then RSP, yes, Revolutionary Socialist Party and Forward Bloc, called upon the Modi-led Indian government not to join the so-called Board of Peace launched by the US as part of Trump's peace plan for Gaza, claiming it would be a betrayal to Palestinians and antithetical to the country's long-term commitments to the United Nations. The joint left party's statement was released on 21st January. The Board of Peace is part of the second phase of Trump's 20-point peace plan for Gaza. The second phase of the ceasefire deal was announced last week by Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff. This was done despite the US being unable to make Israel implement the most crucial aspects of the first phase of the ceasefire deal in force for the last 3 months. On 16th January, Trump announced Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Witkoff, his son-in-law, and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair would be part of the initiative's executive board under his chairmanship. Trump has declared he would be the chair of the board for life. The board proposed 2 kinds of membership based on the monetary contribution. Countries that pay $100 crore would be permanent members, while others would be participating for a 3-year term. The United States has sent letters of invitation and a draft charter for the Board of Peace to around 60 countries, including India. Israel, which has been the main responsible for the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza and destruction in Gaza, has confirmed its participation in the Board of Peace. There is no Palestinian representative in the board. Some countries, including France, have declined Trump's invitation to join the board. Meanwhile, Trump has been claiming that the board might replace the United Nations, which, according to him, has failed to fulfill its primary duty and has been harmful to US interests. Thank you, comrades. Wassalam. See you next week.